against Josh Rosen at UCLA.
Previously.
No offense to Josh Rosen as a person, but I never saw anything huge with that guy. I always felt that there was a bit of, an overrated feeling with him at UCLA. And so the fact that he's getting his chance over here with the Browns, he's in a situation where he should be able to make something happen, at least, try and get that third string quarterback. You got your starter who's out competing for that next job, but he's 7 for 20 against the Eagles and throws. There's a chance that he may not even be on the roster, coming very soon.
Guys, you're doing a great job over there. Here we go. I'll say this. We're pretty self-deprecating here. We're up to 0 viewers right now. This is what we would call an archive situation.
Right.
What are we going into? Our third episode ever, right?
Right.
Third episode of the Sports Report.
Or the fourth, actually, now. Fourth, actually.
Okay, we did Friday. Monday, Tuesday. Today is Wednesday.
Uh-huh.
Man, we're making strides. But good to have you here, JR. As you guys can see, our third co-host is the Dallas skyline in the background, if you guys want to let the folks take a crack and a look at that.
Yeah, look at that right there. Can't beat that out there.
No, it's right there. That is not green screen. Someone's asked me, guys, green screening, and you're trying to say you're somewhere you're not.
No, we just got it like that over here at the Sports Report. Absolutely.
We're authentic, right? That's why I have an authentic offensive lineman in here, someone who's played at the D1 level that can speak on it, can talk about it. A lot of offensive lineman dialogue happening early in this season, man. It's nuts, kind of, right?
Yeah,
Cowboys
absolutely.
are hurting for some.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders have one that on paper, or at least in their mind, back in the beginning, he was going to be the shit.
Right, yeah.
Now, he's been kicked to the curb. But before we start on that, I think at 10:30, right, we have Ikem Okeke, which is a former teammate and still a buddy of JR's he played at Hawaii with. He was telling me yesterday during an episode that his friend had the unfortunate or fortunate luck of being knocked out by Jake Paul in a it looked like a sparring match, except for there was only one guy sparring.
Right.
But we want to get your guy on here and peel back the layer. He's going to be on at 10:30. But reverting back to your offensive lineman prowess, your expertise, man, what is going on with Alex Leatherwood?
Yeah, that story it's pretty crazy. A lot of times when you get a first round draft pick, especially at the offensive line position, that's a sure lock. You have done enough research on that.
That's
guy.
a Zach Martin kind of pick.
Absolutely, yeah. And 17th overall in the 2021 draft. This guy was a Gruden pick for sure, especially from what sources are saying. They loved him. The offensive line coach over there loved him. And so they decided to go with him. Now, there was a lot of doubt surrounding that pick when it first happened, but they still went with it. And the thing with offensive linemen, you either come in ready to play immediately, or you're going to need time to develop, or it's just simply a bust. The busts are really less likely to happen, especially at that position, because offensive line, when you're doing your scouting report, you're seeing exactly what they're bringing to the table. There's really not a lot of surprises, especially when you get to talking with their coaches and things going down. Not only are they producing on film, but you're able to see their type of character and what they can bring to the table early on. So when you have a draft bust as big as Alex Leatherwood, it's pretty mind-blowing. I mean, like,
when we say bust, he was drafted last year. They've already cut bait with him,
which is crazy. Even typically, when you have a first round pick, you don't give up on that money that easily. I mean, but from what I've been hearing, this guy has been offered to be traded around to a load of teams in the past year.
No one wanted him, and
nobody wanted him. Exactly. And so, he had a really rough season last year. He had 14 penalties. And he relinquished 8 sacks. That was like the second most in the league. He allowed 65 pressures last season. So there's stuff on tape, obviously, that's showing, the production is not there. But I mean, to give up on a guy after one season as a first round pick, that is crazy. I mean,
well, it could be, largely symbolic as well. It could be another one that we know Gruden was all in on this guy. Gruden's no longer here, and any chance we can get to get rid of some of the picks he had, especially if they were marginal or they're not panning out.
Right.
It was probably a lot easier to cut bait with him.
Right.
Without Gruden being there. But when I went back and did my research, a lot of the NFL analysts or whatever, inside guys, they did not see this pick being the same as the Raiders. And a lot of people question, could he play tackle in the league anyway? Maybe he'd go to guard. Because let's be honest, your left tackle, even though you may not know it as a fan, the players know it. The left tackle is usually going to be one of the most athletic guys on the team.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I use Larry Allen, for example, right? Just go Google Larry.
Right.
If you don't know what this guy could do, just go Google him.
Right. And that's the same thing with a guy like Lane Johnson. If you see somebody out there on the edge, a lot of times, typically with the new age offensive linemen, they're athletes. They're athletes. They're not a bunch of big fatties walking around, okay? They've got a good core build to them. They're really strong, but they can also, when they pull, they're on a mission. We're not in that age of offensive linemen where big is just going to get it done. So, and with the Raiders, with their first-round draft picks, it's not exactly like they've had a ton of success. So of their 7 first-round draft picks, their last 7, they've only kept 3 of them long-term, and it makes you just wonder, what exactly is going on over there? Like who, is it the draft guys' analysis? Is it a head coach issue that has, that they're making the picks overriding, the analysts and things like that?
I think it's the Raiders, top down. They haven't been doing a lot of things the right way. Previously, maybe they're trying to pivot on that. They've got Devontae Adams coming in. Obviously, they're in Vegas. Carr has a lot of expectations there. But I think this pick can be attributed. I mean, the research screams that no one wanted this guy or thought he was going to be exceptional at the next level, much less a first-round draft pick, except for the Raiders.
Right.
While it would be cool to be a savant and go, hey, we knew this the whole time. We're going to hang our hat on the fact that we picked this guy up and he came in and did awesome. So you could separate yourself.
Right.
There's not a lot of clairvoyance going on in the NFL, right? I mean, there's some big bust, but for the most part, you know what you get with a lineman.
Right. I mean, for example, and this was an article back in 2019, but since 1993, there have only been 5 busts at the offensive tackle position in the first top 16 picks of the NFL draft.
Is there some names on that list?
No, I can go back and look, but I would have to go and do that.
I was just curious. We can beat that another time.
Yeah.
But
just think about that. That's absolutely like I was saying before. Offensive line picks are typically, what you're going to get. You're going to bring them in either to start or to build to get ready. But when you're at a first-round pick, obviously the expectation's super high. You could say, well, he's still young. He still needs time to develop. But then you go and look at a second-round draft pick like Creed Humphrey. He's over here in Pro Bowl contention. He did extremely well, had a rookie breakout year last year, and he was drafted 63 or 64 overall.
Steal, when you compare it to Leatherwood pick, right?
Exactly.
Absolute steal, bank robbery.
Right. But it makes me wonder, now that he's on the waivers, is a team like the Cowboys going to pick him up? Or, is he just going to be one of those guys that falls through the cracks? That's a lot of money on the table. A lot of money.
What'd they pay him?
He still has, they still owe about $8 million to his contract.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit right now. Whatever.
Right.
It would hurt for me to hear out there and it's being tossed around. We offered Randall up for sale. Not one team wanted him, right? Not one team at all. And then I would think, you know what? That sucks, but I'm getting $8 million. Someone may pick him up.
Right. I don't think this is the end yet for this guy because of where he was drafted. It blows my mind. Even with the roughest cats at that high of a pick, you're still going to get a little bit more leeway with developing. But I'm telling you, him being out already on waivers is a bad sign. I mean, there's got to be a little bit more at play here. I don't know exactly, besides obviously the performance on the field. But this isn't something typical that you would see.
No, not at all. Especially when I'm saying teams, you pick somebody that high up, you want to feel vindicated, like, hey, we did the right thing. So you give it a little more time, man. They are cutting bait quickly. What has he done in the preseason?
Well, that's what I think they're going off of. He's still struggling in the preseason. They tried to move him out to that tackle position, and it's just not really.
Which is what he played in college, right?
Right. Yeah, but obviously it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different with pro. Changing to pro. You're out in an island by yourself, and with offensive line play, I feel like besides being a kicker, it's the loneliest position in the world. You're out there by yourself, and at the tackle position, you're literally out there on an island. The only time that you're going to get noticed is if you're giving up a sack, you're making a mistake, or costly penalties. So
he was at Bama, and so let's be honest. Maybe some of his inadequacies were hidden or shrouded when you're playing with a team full of basically future NFL stars.
Right.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe he looked better than he really is, and maybe some guys that were actually an analytical mind were looking at it, going, "No, he's looking good because the play's already gone. Mm-hmm. It's out there. He's not having to stand in there and really showcase his skills." But sometimes these guys slip through the cracks. That is a big guy to slip through a crack, though.
Right? Yeah. Speaking of slipping through the cracks and first round picks, we talked about this on Friday. Kind of crazy how this happens, but Josh Rosen. Yeah,
who you played against in college. For those that don't watch our show regularly, again, to reiterate, JR was a starting offensive lineman for the University of Hawaii. He'd enjoyed his time there. But back to Rosen. Sorry, I wanted people to know what your vantage point was.
Right. Like I said before, I have played against Rosen. We had prepped for Rosen. He was really big talked about that year that we played him back in 2016. Actually, my apologies, 2017. And, his stock was just rising. And at the time, I didn't quite understand it because I just wasn't seeing the things on tape that other people were talking about. And not to say that he's just a bad player, but there were things that I was already seeing at other quarterbacks or other play in the league that I'm like, why is everybody so fascinated on Rosen? Maybe it was because of some of the hot takes that he had in regards to he was always topic of controversy. Whenever there was somebody that wanted to speak on something, Rosen was the guy. So he stayed relevant in the news. And but once again, he was a 10 overall pick, back in the 2018 draft. So since 2018, he appeared in 24 games and started 16 of them. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass since 2019. This guy is now looking at shopping around for his 6th NFL team. What does that say? It
says he's not the guy that everyone thought he was, right?
Right. But take a look at Leatherwood, right? This guy Rosen has had since that time to make something shake. A guy like Leatherwood is now being, kind of everybody's saying they can't pick him up right now. No one wants to trade him or whatever the business is.
Yeah, there's more there. And you said it yourself earlier. You get what you get with a lineman. There's a lot of variables playing quarterback. Maybe we think we can get him in and turn that rocket arm into something. The skill players, obviously, from the outside looking in to your world, I think they're always going to defer and give them more chances, right? Because there's a hope that they can have a big bust-out game and play.
Right.
You guys never get truly credited with a big bust-out game, right? You just go, oh, good, you've done your job. You did, but then you allow a sack and
it's over with.
It goes to shit.
Exactly. And you go 60, 70 snaps a game. You mess up twice, that's your ass.
Yeah. Fans are emailing you on Instagram. You're horrible. You suck.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see the 10 pancakes in the first quarter.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why.
I get it, man. Underappreciated. Most linemen I've met, you're my favorite lineman of all time, obviously, but most I've met have that innate chip on their shoulder. I mean, they're not going to verbally say it out loud, but it doesn't take much to get to ruffle a lineman up, right?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, hey.
Well, I'll be the first to tell you that nobody gets underneath an offensive lineman the way that their position coach does. What happens
by design, baby?
Exactly. What happens in those rooms when you're looking at depth chart and you're trying to get prepared week by week? Man, it's deadly conversation. I mean, that's the type of thing I talk about when we're talking about Hard Knocks and when they got the cameras on them. I can't imagine what that would be like if I'm sitting there in a room, because I have had some of the worst ass chewings. Things that people couldn't even imagine thinking of saying to another human being, but that's everyday conversation because they're trying to instill greatness in your head. And you know what? Like,
I love to see that kind of stuff, right? Of course. I mean, that's made for TV. That's why these shows do so well.
Right.
And I'm sure that there's a little bit of playing to the camera. Like, I actually feel like they don't get as bad of ass chewings as they normally do.
I agree.
The guys are trying to rein in the profanity in case little Susie or Bobby, their son and daughter are watching. But
right.
But I can only imagine, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you entirely. Obviously, with that show, they're not going to show 100% of their true colors is what's going on, but it is a grind in there. Very, very, very politically incorrect. And that's just how it is.
You have a guru. You have an offensive line guru here in the Metroplex that you go to, right?
Right. I'm still trying to partner with him. So this guy, Duke Manyweather, he does O-line masterminds. He's over there at the Star over in Frisco. If you don't know what that is, he's basically just the best of the best of getting guys prepped for the draft. If your draft stock is high, your agent is going to send you to this guy regardless. And even guys who, aren't exactly super high on the list, they can still get in contact with him. But I see guys out there working with him like, Creed's one of those guys. Lane Johnson's one of those guys. You've got Trent Williams, people like that, out there working out with this dude. And yeah, he's the best of the best. I'm still trying to get tapped in with. I've been talking with him in the off season because I was actually playing indoor football while they're doing their off season, obviously. But I would just sit around. I'd wait. After our practice was done, I would just sit there with my shoulder pads in the corner, and I would just watch. I would just watch these guys, and I would just be like, wow, like what? This is the difference between me and them. I'm seeing, there's a few guys out there that just are completely built differently. Monsters, men amongst children.
And basically. Lane Johnson
is a prime example of that. Trent Williams. I don't know if you've seen Lane Johnson up close, man, but obviously he was a tight end that converted over to tackle. This guy has a body build like I've never seen. I mean, he can go out there. It looks like he can crank out, 45 pull-ups with ease, just looking like a skill player, but
That's
out there
amazing
dogging
for a big body.
Right. You're moving earth, if you're able to do, push-ups, pull-ups, and you're pushing around 315, 320 pounds. Like
Lane's a big East Texas boy. He grew up in Groveton, played high school in Groveton, Texas, and of course went on to OU. And I know you're big on him, and they're big on him in NFL circles as far as lineman goes. His ceiling's high, his motor's high.
Right.
He can be a devastating blocker.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the best in the game right now?
Trent Williams. Yeah, I would.
Has Trent come out to your guru?
I haven't. I've seen him personally, but I've never talked to him. How
big a guy is Trent?
Massive towers over.
Because you're 6'6", right?
Right. Yeah. If he's. It's hard to get a grip too because these guys are in cleats when I'm looking at him, but he towers over me. He's massive. And it's not just that too. When you see a guy with a back or a body build like that, it's like, okay, not only is he takes up space like an average doorway, he's having to tilt the shoulder and walk in. I mean,
he's been around. He's been around for a long time. Lane's been around for a minute too. And I like the fact that we've got an offensive lineman in here that we can talk about. Traditionally these positions are forgotten and discarded. Oh, they're linemen or whatever. But you got to be consistent every play, and that's not lost on me. I know we have your buddy coming on at the top of the hour. Do we have time? We didn't get a chance to jump on it yesterday. Though the NFL players voted among themselves and their peers, top 100 players. Let's throw out that top 10 list. We went down it a little bit yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. We could go back on it again. And I wanted to clarify. I know you guys cut it up and put it on TikTok, so probably I would be skewered. What I said yesterday, what I meant to say was I think that Tom Brady is the third or fourth best quarterback as far as talent goes in the league. Pure talent.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with the part of the equation where you roll in the intangibles, the winning attitude, the pregame speech, the intensity, all those things. Obviously, when all those are together, he's the best, the best that ever was at the quarterback position. He's been to quite a few Super Bowls. unbelievable amount of luck. The system, you have to have luck too. They have great teams, well-coached teams, but there is a certain amount of luck in there, right?
Right.
I mean, intercepting the Seahawks in the end zone when everyone knew that they should have been running it to beast mode, like for whatever reason.
Right.
They came out ahead on that. He did win his first year with Tampa Bay.
Right.
His second season actually with Tampa Bay, right?
No, it was
his
the
first season.
It was his first, yeah.
Sorry, they all get jumbled together.
No, yeah.
My point is, as you go and win more and more and more, it becomes exponentially harder than the previous ones, especially with a regime change that you move to a new team and all these things. It was not saying that he's not capable of doing it. If they get to the Super Bowl, they could very well win it again.
Absolutely.
They got a 50-50 chance, right?
Yeah.
But when you start talking about there's no Gronk there, there's some off the field issues going on. There must be there's a coaching change. The head coach has stepped down. Every time you add one of those little pieces in there, it gets exponentially harder to win. And that was my case yesterday before people blow, oh, you're a Brady hater. No, I'm actually a huge fan. It will be very hard to win the Super Bowl, is all I said.
Right.
But again, I won't be shocked if they do it, right?
Right.
He's the guy.
It should never be out of discussion for anybody, even if they're not a big Brady fan. Him going to a different program and winning a Super Bowl off the rip, let alone should shut people the hell up, because obviously that is something you can't just, any regular guy cannot go over to a program, especially in the NFL, and be like, I was winning over here, but I need something different, and then go immediately win over with another program like Tampa. And I'm not saying Tampa didn't have some serious talent when he came over.
Peyton Manning's done it, but you're right. It's hard.
Exactly. But also Peyton Manning doesn't have 7 Super Bowl rings.
No.
And I'm a huge Peyton Manning fan. Don't get that twisted. I love Peyton Manning. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks.
Make no mistake, though. They went into, and again, I am a huge Brady guy, and it takes a lot, but it's not like he went into the Lions and went and won the Super Bowl. He went into a team that the only thing they were missing really was Tom Brady.
Right. They had the defense. They had good receivers. Obviously, Brady coming in there is a huge piece of the puzzle, too. But, it was nice to see Gronk come over and be a huge part, because Gronk is a huge factor, too, right?
Put the band back together. They had to, right?
Exactly. At one point in time, I was pretty convinced I was going to see Edelman come out of retirement and go over there and be like, hey, I'm in here now. There's
some talk of that currently.
Well, exactly.
He could be coming back now.
Well, that's why I wouldn't want to negate the fact that there's always a chance of Gronk coming back, too. The second there's something in here, obviously Tom Brady's got one phone call away, man, like, hey, we need you. What's it to you? And obviously I've been there before, where you go into retirement and all of a sudden you just get that itch. You start seeing something and you're like, man, it's not it for me yet,
Yeah, and it'll be crazy if they win. It'll be good for us when we in here talking and debating about it. I don't see the Rams repeating either. I'm still trying to figure out who I think is going to come out of the NFC. I don't think it's the Bucs, but it's going to be a fun season finding out. Again, we've got a guest coming on in just a matter of minutes. Let's talk about what's your biggest game coming up this week for college in your mind?
College football. Obviously, it's going to be that Ohio State, and I'm drawing a blank here.
I'm going to go with the Georgia-Oregon game as being Georgia-Oregon.
Oh, yeah, the Ohio State-Notre Dame game. Yeah,
Ohio State-Notre Dame. But and not to dismiss your pick at all. I like that. How I feel about Notre Dame, overrated and constantly injected into the news when they don't. And I know they played in the playoff recently, but yeah, I think Ohio State just absolutely spanks them. I think it's 17.5 point spread.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope it's a closer game than that. But these two are, these are my playoff prediction picks going head to head. So I understand what you're saying too with Notre Dame's cupcake schedules. They're always, they're winning games, but what games are they really winning? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why it's super exciting. Yes, it's an overhyped Notre Dame team, but there's a lot of excitement there. And you also have high expectations on Ohio State and their offensive production. So I'm really curious to see how that goes. But also, you're right. That Oregon game, that Oregon-Georgia, is very exciting, because I've got, obviously, Georgia's in there on my playoff pick, and my dark horse pick is Oregon.
Yeah.
Pac-12.
One of your picks, maybe both, could be in danger week one. If it's one of the years where we have an undefeated national champion.
Right. That's the beautiful thing about college football. We're going to find out really, really quick as to who is who. And that is just exactly what the people want.
Yeah, and I'm not going to chicken shit out and not pick my Final Four before. I don't count week 0. I mean, everybody – sat around all winter, and I'm sure they were like, "Hey, let's make fun of Scott Frost when he comes back," or maybe they'll win. But he really came out and lived up to all the hype that it's kind of like the gang that couldn't shoot straight. But let's discredit that week. That's not real college football, right? I mean, come on.
Okay, so
this to me is when I'm going to make my picks this week.
So you haven't made your
you've got on here and talked about your Final Four.
Yeah, preseason.
I'm going preseason, and I need, out of respect for you, I need to come up with 4. Yeah. I'm just going to make sure 4 of mine aren't playing on the opening weekend. Give myself a little wiggle room. But it could be one of the weird years where there's a 1.
Right.
If crazy stuff even happens because there is precedent, a 2-loss champ.
Right. If Notre Dame's only loss goes to Ohio State this upcoming year,
and it's fairly close. Yeah, things could happen. This is going to be one of the wildest years in college football ever. I can feel it, right? Post-pandemic, every facet of life seems like a complete shit show right now. Like you and I ride down the street here in Dallas, people are flipping people off, cutting us off.
Right.
I've gotten older, so I'm changing my ways. I no longer get into the return middle fingers or anything like that. Quit that years ago. But there's this tension in the air. Everybody hates everybody. And I see that when I go to church on Sunday. People are like, whatever. And so the players are going, all these teams hate each other. The weirdest year in college football is upon us, I have a feeling. It's so weird that I feel that even Texas and Texas A&M are going to do some things that shake it up.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think, too, now that we're moving past that pandemic side, people are just getting more and more excited about college football, whether it be just attendance in general. People are ready to get outside. People are ready to go see some football.
Well, the excitement for college football was at its pinnacle when they did let us back out.
Right.
But again, we haven't been going back. It hasn't been normal long.
Right. It hasn't been normal. You've had people out because of COVID and things like that. And there are just so many facets as to the effect on the pandemic to sports in general. Yeah. And I feel like we're just
is this real? Are we going to do this 2 years in a row?
Right.
Come out? Yeah, I get it. But there's a lot of anger and crap going on in the world, and it transfers down to everything. We hope and pray as a startup that we have a huge college football season that we can talk about here on Monday as well as the NFL. But I'm pretty excited about it. Again, I want to talk about, first week games, but I just can't get my mind off that Alabama UT game, and we'll hit that up next week. Again, for those that just come on or don't watch the show a lot, we're in Dallas. We're in downtown. Show the angle behind Jake, the city skyline. For those that are a little familiar with Dallas-Fort Worth, that's the downtown area. I would say we are approximately, 5 minutes from American Airlines Center, where the Dallas Mavericks, Luka, and the Stars play.
Man, I went to my first Mavs game this past offseason. This past season that they had, a playoffs. First time I've ever been to a game.
That's amazing.
It was amazing.
You not even know each other then. We actually know each other for a couple months, max probably.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge Mavs fan, and I've got a little mosaic of Mr. Luka himself over here sitting behind me, and I'll show it to your guests, and we'll ask him what he thinks about it. We should be getting him on here anytime.
Yeah, I told him to join.
10:30.
Should be on here.
We're going to let's look at that's what, like I said, that's the beauty of going live on a non-traditional show is I can take a peek at my phone.
Mm-hmm.
We got so many things pro and collegiate coming at us every day. It's tough to remember all these matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday college game. There's a ranked team, Okie State playing, but they're playing Central Michigan. We want to crack back down here to Arkansas. Cincinnati could be an interesting game.
I can't wait for that game.
That's a 2:30 game on Saturday. I'm going to take Arkansas on that. Cincinnati lost the quarterback.
Right.
Lost some other key players. Right.
Right. Yep.
You are a believer in Arkansas
this year. Yeah.
I believe it. I mean, we can see them, even from the outside looking in, like they're on this trajectory, right? They're building. They promoted that coach from within, who's very popular.
Right. They have this thing about them right now, this swagger around Arkansas that I keep hearing too, and I'm just excited. They're a team in the SEC that needs to have a breakout season. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're coming up to, but Cincinnati's still going to be a challenge. They do the things the right way over there. That's why they have success. They don't have a ton of guys at all times, but they're all bought in, man. That's what happens. We've got Ecom joined up here in the queue. Should we add him to this? Ecom, what's going on, brother? How are you?
JR, how you doing?
Well, so for the viewers out here who don't know, Ecom Okeke, I played with him at the University of Hawaii. He came in, he was a linebacker at first. Correct me if I'm wrong here. We'll come in as a linebacker at first. Mm-hmm. And a lot of development I'd seen over the years with this guy. He had then gone over to safety and became quite a ball hawk for us to end throughout that 2019 stint, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Man. It's a whole lot of stuff that went on. Came in college thinking I was going to be a starting linebacker my first year, especially looking at the Hawaii season. I'm like, okay, I got an opportunity to play right away. Had some great guys in front of me like Gerald Garcia Williams, Russell Williams, Jelani Tavai, a lot of people. So I ended up seeing the opportunity at safety when Trayvon Henderson left and said, yeah, I'm going to take my opportunity and make the most of it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's amazing. And so as I've seen you develop, man, so looking forward and you're a prospect right now. Your goal as of right now as it stands, you want to be in the NFL and you're working on the steps to get there. You were in the spring league and you got some film over there and now it's looking like the XFL is the next opportunity for you or
yeah, because I know I probably wouldn't even get in the NFL this year just based off of how many new people are coming out of college and how many people are on practice squads and stuff, and everybody just getting cut yesterday. So, I started looking at it like I need to start focusing on the long-term goal, which is, if I want to succeed, I got to keep myself healthy, keep my body right, and then just take the steps that are necessary to get to where I want to be.
Right. Yeah. So you see, you're an undrafted free agent, went to a smaller school. So obviously that's a bit difficult for anybody to get in your situation. So you have to work twice as hard as the guy who went to Alabama, had a ton of film, and, was able to get off the board really quick. So your opportunities are very limited. Do you feel like the XFL coming up or the USFL, those leagues, you think that's a good gateway to get into the NFL?
I actually do. I mean, as you can see, the USFL has had some guys that are having some success in NFL preseason this year. I'm sure the XFL will have a bunch more. XFL the first time had a bunch of guys that got picked up in the NFL. So, it's really just about recency, and it's a recency bias to where teams, if you haven't played in, let's say, a year or 2 years, they're not going to pick you up in the NFL, but the XFL gives you an opportunity, the USFL, and you make the most of it, then you might possibly get a chance just because you played recently. And especially if you're balling out, then people will look at it like, okay, this guy can still play. Let's see what he can do in the NFL.
Nice. So that's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what your future holds when it comes to football. I think that you have a lot left in the tank and a lot more to offer. So I'm very excited to see how that goes. Now, switching gears here, you became a topic of discussion yesterday. Jake Paul, he scheduled his fight, I guess, against Silva. That's like the big talk right now. And you came to mind because there's quite a story. There's a little bit of history between you and Jake Paul. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about it. So first time I met Jake, we were training at the same gym. Obviously, you and me, JR, had a mutual teammate, Dejan Butler, that stays around him, and trains him. But I seen him in the gym, and I just saw him working out. He wasn't obviously great in the weight room, but he's been doing a lot of boxing training. And he came up to me because I know I had probably sent D-Bud a message a couple times. I'm like, I need to get in the gym and practice my boxing. I need to train sparring. And then he came up to me. He was like, hey, we'll give you a chance to spar Jake in the ring, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay.
Well, mind
These
you,
guys.
didn't they send out like a Snapchat or and there's a video going around viral of another cat that got asked to do the same thing. But there was like the Snapchat. Dejan put it out to all of us trying to get somebody to bait them into coming and sparring with him for a free flight and money, right?
Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there because I'm back at home, so I'm in Vegas. I'm training. I'm seeing him in the gym every day, and he comes up and he's like, you could spar me. I'm like, this guy doesn't look very athletic. He doesn't look very challenging. I play football, and I've been in a lot of fights here and there. I wasn't scared of the contact, so I'm just sitting there like, okay, this guy, it probably would be kind of fun. And I'm talking to one of my friends who does boxing for real, Nico Ali Walsh, and he's like, okay, I've been training with him for a little bit, but not real sparring. I was just doing some regular, uh, boxing training to where it'd be 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And he was like, okay, we can do this. Usually sparring takes place with 16-ounce gloves, headgear, all this. So we go in there. I have my own 16-ounce gloves. We're getting ready. And right before we go in there, he comes out. He's like, no, we're using these 10-ounce gloves. So we brought you an extra pair. And I'm sitting there kind of confused. I don't know what's going on. But my friend Nico tells me, he's like, yeah, 10-ounce gloves are used for when people are actually going into the ring to fight. 16-ounce gloves are used for sparring. So they're trying to make a highlight out of you. And I'm like, people won't really make a highlight out of me because I have that much confidence in myself.
Oh,
Where,
I know that.
I'm like, I don't believe like he can make a highlight out of me. But what really happened too was I wore a mouthpiece that I picked up the day of that I never got molded to my mouth. Cause football, I usually had the binky mouthpieces, and boxing, they wear the ones that goes in the mouth. So I had to pick one up, and I never got it molded. So I'm in the fight, I'm getting worn out, and next thing you know, he hits me right on the right spot, chips my tooth, and
There we
yeah.
go.
But I can say one thing: I never got knocked down by him. He threw me down. He tries to.
I did kind of see a bullshit uppercut too there when you guys were, which I think kind of dazed you a little bit, was when you guys were splitting apart. He went ahead and gave you an uppercut when I don't know too much about boxing, but I do know that he took a cheap shot at you when you weren't expecting it, and I feel like it might have thrown you off a little bit. If that was what you felt at all, or I don't know exactly what was going on in your mind when you started seeing, because at first what it looked like was that you were coming out swinging from the jump, and obviously you're not a boxer, so the form there might have been a little off, but you were still going at his head, and he just looked like he was training, and you were a guy that he had just was luring, baiting, if you will, to come in and get content.
Yeah, well, that's really what it was, because I hadn't trained boxing, and he's been training for 2, 3 years to that point. And I go in there, I just throw all my punches in the literal first 20, 30 seconds, and I'm tiring myself out, not realizing boxing, you got to be kind of more technical. Like I know from what I've seen. You know, I've watched Floyd Mayweather, I've watched all these guys box, but it's like you get in that ring and the adrenaline starts rushing, and
You're
I
right.
really just try
Right.
to throw some punches, trying to connect, and it's like, okay, you're gonna tire yourself out like that. By the second round, I was already dazed, done, like just dead tired from literally throwing punches that I couldn't even hold my arms up the same anymore. And not to mention, I did a workout before that, like probably an hour before that. I had just finished a workout at the gym. These guys was obviously coming from probably just the house or something. They had me waiting at the gym for like 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And I honestly, for a second, I was about to leave. But then I'm like, you know, I might as well stay here and do what I came here to do, because I'm obviously not a quitter. I'm not going to quit, especially if somebody's challenging me. I'm going to accept the challenge. And, you know, you win some, you lose some.
Right.
It was just when I fought him, I kind of knew. I was like, because that was before the Nate fight. I knew, I was like, yeah, he's definitely going to beat Nate just because he's been training longer. You feel me? If I couldn't go in there and beat him, and I mean, I'm not saying I would go in there and whoop Nate, but I'm definitely bigger than him. I'm definitely as athletic, or he might be a little bit more athletic because, you know, he won the dunk contest a couple times. But you know, it's like, if you can't just use your athleticism in boxing, it has to be very technical. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know your way around the ring. And when I did that, I didn't know my way around the ring. You know,
There's the tooth right there. There's the tooth. What did you have to get that glued back in, or was that already a fake tooth, or was that your real tooth right there?
Oh, that was my real tooth. So yeah, I had to get a cap on it. You know, you see these
I'll
pearly
tell you,
whites.
you look young right there, man. You look young.
You know, I got a little bit more beard in my life nowadays. You know, it might
Yeah. So
protect that.
did you bet on Jake Paul after that? Did you when the Nate Robinson fight came on, were you like, oh yeah, my money's going to Jake now, or did you just stay away from it entirely?
So I bet that Nate fight because I'm like, I know it's gonna be a win. When it came down to the Tyron Woodley fight, I didn't know the first time. I had a feeling. I was like, I should bet my money on him, but I kind of stayed away from it the first time. Second time, I was like, all right, I know Jake's probably gonna win this one, and that's when he had that signature knockout, and I was like,
Right.
okay. Now if it was Tommy Fury, I probably wouldn't have bet on him. And if
You're right.
he would have fought the last person he was just supposed to fight, I think Jake probably would have lost. That's why he backed out.
Yeah, there's all different types of reasons that they keep pushing back these fights, whether they say it's Tommy's fault or there's a weight issue or things like that.
You know?
Once again, he's going in to fight another MMA fighter. So
Yeah.
it's like, but we're feeding the machine here, right? Like we're feeding the beast. People are still paying pay-per-view. People are still streaming it. People are still betting it. I don't think he's going to cut that shit out until the purse gets small, you know?
I'm gonna be honest, Jake Paul, he's very smart. He knows what he's doing because he knows, like, all right, I'm gonna fight these guys that I have a great chance of winning, and I'm gonna just play this character that allows people to want to see me lose, so that they're gonna pay to see me lose, or they're gonna do all this, but he's gonna still win because he knows he's trained this boxing more than these people that he's stepping in the ring with. And you know, I can't knock the hustle, you know, but he's never going to be a professional boxer. He's always going to be a celebrity boxer who boxes, you know,
I
people of
love
his
that.
choice.
I love that because I couldn't agree with you more. I'm right there. I'm right there. But there are kids, especially younger than us, that truly believe Jake Paul is like the best boxer right now. Like boxer, like people who don't really know boxing but like want to get into it. They really think this guy's the deal, which is exactly what he wants.
And if you look at it like Nate Robinson, Jake Paul is literally like my size, and I'm about 6 foot, you know, 210, 215. So he's fighting guys like Nate Robinson who are 5'7", 5'8". on a good day, Tyron Woodley, who are little, they're not even in that heavyweight class that he would really essentially be in, and he's not cutting down weight to get to like 175 or anything. So it's like we know that Jake wants to feel comfortable, and he has the ability to do that because of how big his following is. So he can do basically whatever he wants because people are still going to watch him. People are still going to pay attention. He's getting paid the most out of a lot of fighters right now just because his name's so big, not because of the accomplishments that he's had.
Right. And just a couple more things here. So you mentioned before, like the way that Jake moves as far as from a a money standpoint or from an attention standpoint. Like how is is Jake Paul different off camera than his persona when he's on camera?
So like I never met him, or no, I met him. I never watched him on YouTube. I've only seen, I only saw that clip when everybody was sending my video on YouTube. And that's the only YouTube video I've seen of Jake Paul. So whatever else he does, I've seen him do a couple of stuff on Instagram and stuff later on after that clip came out. And I'm like, okay, he's kind of just like a big troll on Instagram and stuff like that. But like when I met him in person, he just kind of seemed like you wouldn't even really pay attention to this guy in person. Like he's not like super out there. He's not gonna like really do something like in the weight room. That's where I was meeting him, so he's not gonna be over there flexing on everybody. He still came in with his camera crew. That's Jake Paul that I saw. It's a guy walking around with a camera crew, feeling like, okay, my life needs to be on display, but he's not really doing a lot until he feels like, okay, it's time to talk shit. And then he's okay, I'm gonna turn it up and I'm gonna show out for the cameras.
Right. Yeah, which seems pretty fitting for a guy like Dejan Butler to be hanging around with him a bunch. That makes a lot of sense, And
D-Butt was always Hollywood, he always had that laughable character.
Right, exactly. He was always just saying something or doing something or causing something, and I hope the best for that kid too. But man, he got under my skin when I was over there playing at Hawaii, and it's just interesting to see how as we get along, what other careers guys dive into. But on our way out here, I wanted to ask you what's next on the pipeline for your career path. What are you doing for work, man?
Okay, so right now, me and a couple of my friends from Bishop Gorman, my high school, started up a company called Fioso Consulting, and we basically do digital consulting. So, we build websites, we do branding and marketing, whether that's SEO, SEM, stuff like that.
You guys based out of Vegas?
Yeah, we're based out of Vegas, but we got a team of people that's literally everywhere. So we got a team from India that'll build websites. We got a team from California, we do NFT development, metaverse, literally bookkeeping, anything that you can think of that needs to be fixed in a business or your own business personally. We can help with that. So yeah, we just found a bunch of people, or we got blessed with the opportunity to just meet all these people, and we decided, since we know all these people and we have the ability, why not build a consulting company to allow all the people that we know to get these resources that we have and use them to better their business.
Nice. Awesome, man. Well, I'm super proud of you. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. You had one hell of a story that I knew we had to talk about here. But I wish you much success in your upcoming endeavors, especially with football. Man, you're a great dude. You come from a great family, and I hope to hear from you very soon, man.
No, I appreciate you having me, JR. It's all love. Warriors for life. You see, I got the Hawaii shirt on right now. So,
Yes,
I got to
sir.
represent.
One big Ohana, baby. One big Ohana.
It wasn't the best game last week, but, we're coming back. We're coming back strong.
Exactly. Hey, a 1-0, baby. Just work on being 1-0. But thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on, brother.
All right, my guy. Have a great rest of this show. It's all love.
Yes,
Talk
sir.
to you soon.
Appreciate it. Talk to you soon. All right. So that was Ikem Okeke. What'd you think about that?
I liked it. I had a couple questions I wanted to ask him. I guess I know he probably had to go. I wanted to ask him a few questions. I think we're going to go to a break at the top of the hour. It's 10:52. But, yeah, it was a pretty interesting story. That's the first time I saw that video. It was like a couple minutes before we walked in.
Yeah, it was big.
Maybe we can get him back on another time. Like I said, I had a couple questions I wanted to ask. What do you want to talk about next, man, before we go on this break?
Well, are you a big fan of, I'm looking at the preseason quarterback rankings, right? We were back talking about the top 100 a little while ago. And let me try and pull it up here. I've got sheesh. Hold on. Yeah, so we've got the PFF highest greatest quarterbacks. We got Ellinger, and he was at 90.6. He went 24-29, passing for 289 yards, for touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That guy, a Texas cat. What do you think about him being over there in the NFL right now, making strides? You think he's going to be a big player coming up in the future? Or?
Well, those stats you were talking about, those are preseason?
Preseason.
Yeah. You know how I feel about preseason. I don't even watch. He's third in line where he's at now. I mean, he's Big Dick Nick Foles is ahead of him. And you know who the starter there is, Matt Ryan. So right. Ellinger's he's impressive when he runs the ball. I like the kid. He seems like he has a knack for making plays. He obviously made a lot of plays at Texas. Can he come in and usurp Matt Ryan and Nick Foles? I could see him being second in that over Foles all day long. There's a reason he's third on this, and I'm coming off a depth chart off of ourlads.com. This numbers very well could have changed, but Matt Ryan's the guy over there. But if Matt goes down, Ellinger would be an exciting prospect for the fans. I think the fans, those that watch preseason, probably got excited seeing him come in and score, do things, because they don't know what Matt Ryan can do either for them.
Right,
we're about to find out. They've had some quarterbacks, revolving door coming in and out. But Sam would be good for the game. Sam's got a good story. He went to Texas. Obviously, things didn't work out there, but nothing's worked out for Texas.
Right.
For several quarterbacks ever since Colt McCoy left, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I like Sam. I like his story. We'll see what happens with him, man. If he gets a chance, he could. I don't know if he could evolve into segging into Geno Smith, who will be a starter in the league. I don't know if Sam's ready to go there yet, but I do see Sam being able to play as a starting quarterback somewhere in this league.
Yeah. Geno Smith is a very interesting character here with the numbers, because with initial numbers, you're looking at not a lot of completions. But if you dive a little bit deeper into it, especially what PFF is noticing is that receivers are dropping balls in football. So it doesn't look like on paper that he's making completions, but he's throwing dots. He's got people just dropping footballs. It's a receiver's issue over there right now. So I definitely think that Geno's going to be a good guy coming down the pipeline for sure. I'm excited to see what he does in the upcoming season too. What about Justin Fields, man? How do you feel about that guy?
Man, I don't know. Chicago's a hard place to play, mainly because they've been fairly inept as a franchise for a long time. Aaron Rodgers comes to town, owns them. I know they got rid of their coach. There's a lot of upside for the kid. I don't know. And back to Geno for a second. A lot of drop passes. We're talking about preseason again.
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry. I don't think Geno's probably worried. I don't know if they're playing all their top tier guys. Man, there's a lot of change going on over there. Russell Wilson's no longer there.
Right.
So I'm sure the fans are antsy in general. The drop passes in preseason probably have them a little overly anxious, because preseason,
right,
to me, you can't really quantify whether or not a guy's going to be a good player based on those couple games. But it is good to see him get in and get some reps. And dropping can't be good.
Right.
I mean, and hopefully we can he can avoid that, and he can have. I want Seattle to beat Denver. They're playing the first game of the year. Russell gets to return to Seattle. I know the Seahawks fans do not want Russell to cook when he returns. They wanted him to cook. Let Russ cook when he's there. He's gone, man. He's a Bronco now.
Right. I'm curious to see if the Seahawks will even be a factor this year. It's really, right now I don't hear anybody talking about how good the Seahawks are going to be.
Yeah, I want to look while we're sitting here before we go on break. I want to look at their schedule, the Seahawks' upcoming schedule, which Monday Night Football, which is going to be the first Monday night game, I believe. The NFL loves their marketing, baby.
Absolutely.
Denver at Seattle. Everybody in this room will be watching.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let's look at the schedule. Regular season, man. They open with the Broncos at home. Yeah. They're at the 49ers week 2. A Trey Lance-led 49ers team. Unless Jimmy G has to come off the bench to bail him out of trouble, which I'm not ruling that out. That shit probably will happen, right? Then they're home versus the Falcons at Detroit. As much as I love the Detroit team being on Hard Knocks, they absolutely won't finish above 500. So Seattle should be able to go to Detroit and get that win, even with Geno as a backup. I mean, I love Dan Campbell, man. He's got Dallas ties. He played for the Cowboys. I like what he's about, but a lot of the chest thumping and beating on that he wants to do is just, it's not going to make his guys win those particular set of guys win games. And again, we try to stay positive on this show, but when Jared Goff's the quarterback, he hasn't proven to us, the rest of the world, that he is a guy that can lead a team like Detroit to the promised land. Then they're at the Saints. They play the Cardinals at home. Man, this could be a really rough road for Seattle. Think about this stretch here. If we're going off what guys are getting paid and expectations for 2022, think about this schedule. In October, 10-6, they play the Cardinals. They're at the Chargers. They're at home versus the Giants. Who knows what the Giants are going to do? All right. Cardinals again. Buccaneers, Raiders, Rams, Panthers.
So what are you thinking? You thinking over
49ers, Chiefs, Jets, Rams.
500.
I'm looking at Seattle probably winning 4 games tops, just based on we're looking at the complexion of the way things are now. How many did they win last year with Russell?
Oh man, I don't even. How many did they win last year?
Let's check it out.
Yeah.
I got to go back and look. So a lot of this stuff just gets jumbled together from one season to the other, especially when Seattle didn't do anything.
Yeah, they won 10. They won 10 games. No. This was 2019.
They were 7-10, fourth in the NFC West. So I knew they weren't. They didn't win more games than they lost because obviously Russell. It was time to move on. Right. 7-10 last year with a guy whose statue will one day probably be up somewhere near the stadium, outside the stadium. I don't know if they have a Ring of Honor there, or if they've got some kind of Starbucks affiliated all-time name on a cup or whatever they do for the Seahawks. Russell's in the conversation for the favorite Seahawk of all time, right?
I mean, I would assume so. I thought that they loved him over there for a long time. I mean, up until obviously his departure, but that makes a lot of sense. I just, once again, still though with Russell, I want to see a few more things out of that guy. Him moving over to the Broncos, I think is an excellent decision because a fresh start means, slate kind of gets wiped clean. Obviously, besides what brought you there in the first place, it's a whole different team, whole different locker room. So seeing what he's going to be able to bring to the table and see if he can bring a group of guys together and man that offense, might be something special. I mean,
it could be something special. I mean, these Hollywood stories in the NFL sometimes develop and things happen that people go, there's no way in hell that should have happened. Nick Foles taking the Eagles to the Super Bowl, filling in for an injured Carson Wentz. Those things are not something you could predict or even script. Those things happen organically, and there's a lot of factors that go into it we don't know. I can fairly confidently assure you that Seattle will underperform this year. Russell does have a clean slate, a lot of pressure. He has a body of work. But pivoting, he's got a body of work that fans are basing it on. Hey, he could be really good. He's going to come in here. He's going to do like Peyton Manning did and take us to the Super Bowl. And I get it. That is the eternal optimism that fans have, and no one has it more than me and my brethren, which are Cowboys, right? But I got news flash for the Broncos. He's no Peyton Manning. I mean, he is no Peyton Manning. I think they will struggle there. And by struggle, I mean they may eke into the playoffs, the wild card. I don't think they're going to get in and do any damage in the AFC. This in his first campaign as the quarterback. AFC's loaded.
Yeah,
AFC's loaded. I still feel the champion, Super Bowl champion, comes from the NFC. But if you're asking me about Russell, I mean, that's the thing about him, man. He's been a performer so long.
Right.
I have to see it develop. I mean, we'll know by week 3 if Mile High is going to be a little bit too much for him, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying too. Like when I say I want to see a little bit more of what he does with this team. Russell wins. Russell's a good quarterback. I really enjoy him and what he brought with Seattle. But moving forward, like I said, new team, new year, new identity. What's he going to bring? I don't know if you've seen him come into the camp, but he was wearing his own jersey coming into camp. You know, all the guys, all the superstars, they like wearing, you know, some new drip or some type of, you know, designer stuff or whatever, but he just comes in rocking his own jersey. And I just thought, you know, a lot of people will call that cringe, but I thought it was hilarious. Like,
now, just judging from your background alone, go back to JR's background. You are definitely not going to judge him for wearing his own jersey.
No.
Hell no.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I love a jersey guy.
Yeah, it's your brand.
Yeah. I mean, that look right there. Look at that. Your other brand, we need to stretch the shirt out a little bit. For anybody watching, you could go to our bio and virtually all of our social media accounts and find the Shopify. Some of you that are watching are friends of mine that are self-employed and own businesses, which I have personally patronized and bought equipment and things from you. If you can't spring, what are the T-shirts cost, Tyler? If you can't spring for $25 to help feed my son Chick-fil-A for lunch over here instead of me getting the dollar menu at McDonald's, shame on you. And you know who I'm talking to. I bought some expensive equipment for a couple of you high school buddies. I kid a little bit, but 3-shirt minimum would be nice if you guys could go on today. Before we go on this break, I want to get off this topic about the Broncos. They were also 7-10 last year. Let's look at their record. I mean, let's look at their schedule. Obviously, and I'll go through it quick. Seahawks, and then there's the Texans, 49ers, Raiders, Colts, Chargers, Jets, Jaguars. That's a dub, right? Let's go ahead and say the Broncos and everyone else beat the Jaguars. The Titans, the Raiders, but no one better sleep on the Raiders, man.
That's what no
one better sleep on the Raiders. Defense, underrated quarterback play is how I feel that David Carr is. But after the Raiders, it's going to be the Panthers right around Thanksgiving, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Cardinals, the Rams, the Chiefs, the Chargers. Whew.
It's not easy, man. It's not easy.
No, that's what I'm saying. Having success at one place and going to another place for a clean slate, man, wow, that would be awesome for the media and for the narrative if it works out because it's happened. There's precedent. People are like, Tom Brady's done it. Peyton Manning's done it. Again, Russ, nothing against you, Russ. I like you. I think you're good. He's good for the Shield. He's good for the game. He always has been.
Right. Represents.
But you are neither of those two players. Does not mean he's not going to win another Super Bowl. He's still relatively young, but you know, AFC West. They finished 4th in the AFC West last year.
Yeah, they got a must-win game against the Texans over there because it is not like their schedule gets any easier. Obviously, they got the Seahawks, like you said, the Texans, but the 49ers, that Raiders and Colts game, those three right there, man. And then it doesn't get any easier.
Well,
you know?
The Texans are a must-win game if you're talking about just surely not getting embarrassed.
Right. Well, that's my point.
The psyche of the team, right?
Right.
And I felt like you did, and that's why I ran with it. The psyche of the team would be bad if the Texans beat them, right?
Very much so.
Guys, let's roll into a break. We got a video, something we can pop on for 3 or 4 minutes that'll get us through a little bit of a break.
We'll be back. All right, we are back. We just had Ikem Okeke on, NFL prospect, XFL prospect, had some prior ties in with Jake Paul. We were on topic of NFL football. At this point in time in the show, I'm going to tell a little bit of a story, if you will, and you're going to hear these throughout the show of my time over in Hawaii. It's not exactly a regular place where people are like, oh, I've got this going on, or I've got that going on. Like, this was my life for 4.5 years. So there was a lot of unpredictability going on, but I want to get into the time that we were supposedly attacked from an unknown ballistic missile threat. And this is one of my favorite stories that I have over there. Basically, at the time, there was a point in time where tensions were high between the United States and North Korea. And there were a lot of talks about what would happen if there would be some type of attack or strike. And Hawaii is a very militant zone, right? We control that area with our Pacific Fleet, and it's basically an outlet for us to stretch out and militarize in the Pacific. Now, something that had happened, it was in 2018. Hold on one second. Yeah, in 2018, there was a alert sent to everybody's phone. And basically what happened was, it was a Saturday morning. I woke up, got a text. This is the text that everybody received. Everyone who had their phone pinged in a Hawaii location showed this text coming up. Now, I woke up early in the morning, and there's a lot of military stuff going on all the time out there. So we had, when you get alerts on your phone and stuff, at first you might think it's an Amber Alert or something like that, right? So I'm laying in bed, and I start hearing my phone go off. And immediately I reach over and I turn my phone off. And I don't even look at it. I'm like, well, it's probably an Amber Alert, not a big deal. Gonna go off. Then at the time, I had a girlfriend at the time, her phone goes off, and I tell her to turn it off. And this is about 45 seconds in between each other. At that point in time, we start hearing the sirens go off, and I'm still not getting out of bed. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. And this is about the minute 15 mark. I have a buddy of mine who's my roommate who busts open the door, and he gets on top of my bed, right at the edge of the bed, and he's holding over the phone, and he's like, JR, look. And I'm still kind of trying to wake up, and then my eyes just like autofocus on this text message right here. And at that point, I'm like, okay, well, what do we do, right? Like, what do we have? And I had a class, like a health class, that was in one of the only ballistic missile, in one of the only fallout shelters that the campus had available. So I knew of a place that we could go. And I told the boys, I said, you know what? Grab what you can. We're out in 60 seconds. Everybody goes scrambling. I have 2 roommates in there, a girl I'm dating at the time. Everybody's trying to get something that they can, at least just put on some pajamas or something. I walk into my living room. I open the fridge. I have a duffel bag. I just reach my arm in there and swipe everything from the first 3 rows of the fridge. Ziploc the bag, and I'm out the door. Now, we get in the car. I'm about 2 minutes from campus. I have to enter onto a highway and then immediately exit off the highway to get onto Campus Corner. What's weird is I get in the car and we start going. I'm breaking several traffic laws trying to, hurry up and rush over to this place. And what I'm noticing is, like, I don't see a bunch of, hurry up. I don't see any kind of crazy thing, any sense of urgency whatsoever with other traffic going on until I hit the light at the school. And at that point, right as I get off the highway, I start seeing people drive erratic, left, right, crossing intersections, red lights, flipping around, doing a U-turn, heading straight up the Manoa Hill. Now, we're in the valley at Manoa. Basically, it sits right on the top overlooking Honolulu. Now, I start seeing everybody kind of drive erratically. I'm like, oh, okay, this is happening. Like, that was like my oh shit moment. Like, this is real. I pull off, get off the road into this fallout shelter area. And from the point of the time of the text message, it's about 4.5 minutes from when we got it. Like, we were in and out quick. We get there, I have my duffel bag on. Everyone's got their backpacks. We run up there, and there's only like 3 or 4 students that are frantic, that are like banging on the doors. The door's locked to the place. We're sitting there banging on, like, please, like, let us in. And I'm still thinking, like, this is really strange. Why is there only 4 of us still here? Like, I feel like this is a way bigger deal than that. Then I turn to my right, and I have a perfect shot between me and residential housing right between Campus Center. And I just see a sea of students, knees to chest, booking it with everything you could think of, TVs, pets, all their belongings that they deemed reasonable to bring. They're sprinting straight to me. And I'm like, oh, we were just the first people here. And it was just like such a crazy feel. It was like World War Z, just looking at these people coming over. And they end up getting over there, and they start bull rushing the door. Everybody's using their bodies, banging up against the door. A minute or 2 goes by. People are really starting to freak out. Everyone's sending their text messages to their parents telling them, hey, I love you. I don't know what's going to happen. We've got families putting kids inside of storm drains to try and protect them because they have no other place to put them. They're scared. And eventually we get a professor who's frantic with the keys. She's shaking, and she finally puts it in and lets everyone in. It's just hundreds of students just start flooding into this auditorium. And we get everybody in there. We shut the doors, and we're just sitting there waiting. Everyone's refreshing their phones over and over again, trying to figure out what's going on. Is this real? Is this happening? And yeah, no one's getting any type of alert. So I'm refreshing Twitter over and over again, and eventually we get the notification that they deemed it a false alert, a mistake on somebody's part, and eventually said that somebody
whoops.
And right, how do you mess that up that bad? And they said somebody pressed the wrong button. And at that point in time, everybody's just like, what? Whatever.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, are you kidding me?
Man,
right?
You could have incidentally, the person who pressed the wrong button could have incidentally caused a stress-related heart attack, caused some wrecks. Isaac, throw up. Was that the text I sent you a second ago, the pic of the alert? Or you already had one? Throw that one back up again. This is what the part that would make me pucker up. All right, let's say I'm sitting at home and this text message alert comes across. That's not one I've ever seen in person. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii, man. That obviously you spoke on, but that's scary shit.
Scary shit, absolutely. And there's nothing, and mind you, at the time, tensions were so high between the two countries that when people heard that, we were like, okay, like there's got to be something more to it. And that was just the rule. They pinged and tracked every person that they were able to find on the island, immediately able to send that text message out to everybody. The amount of clearance codes that you would have to do. I mean, you're a military guy yourself. Do you really think that it was just one button like that could have caused something? And I'm not
as crazy as it sounds. When you distill it down, everything that we do in the military, there would be some at the end of the line thing it didn't make a lot of common sense, like one button, right? Like the nuclear codes, you've got to have multiple people involved or this or that. That's just to actually launch them. But for the warning, I don't know. Right. That's a good question.
Right. Yeah.
I remember that vividly. I didn't know you then, but I remember thinking, man, scary shit again. But you did the right thing. Out of all that story, and it's probably because I didn't eat breakfast this morning, the part that I picked up on the most when you said you were swiping the food in, did anything stand out to you? Like you're like, hey, I may be getting bombed, but I'm going to eat pretty good in a minute. Did anything stick out?
I mean, not really. All I can remember is the useless amount of condiments that I'd thrown into my bag, right?
Like Taco Bell sauce.
Right. Like the mustards.
Well, there's no Whataburger in Hawaii, right?
Right.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. But you get like 3, everybody has all the condiments. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just like anything. I don't know how long I'm going to be stuck in there, if it's going to be rubble coming outside. Like you just don't know. But the craziest part of it all was about 5-6 days later, the University of Hawaii had a 4-star general, commander of the Pacific Fleet, a guy who's really well decorated, come in, one of the most powerful person I've ever had a chance to meet, come in and talk to us in a big meeting type setting. And he just said, and this is one of the more morbid but also realistic things I'd heard, is he was like, listen, guys, number one thing here is don't worry. You need to understand that we have all the things that we need right here to defend something. If we are under attack, trust in your government. We are going to take care of you. We're going to do everything we can to protect this place and protect this island. And right now you're in safe hands. But, and this is a big but here, if a situation like this ever happens and there's a ballistic missile inbound and for some reason we aren't able to shoot it down, I don't want you all to panic. I don't want you all to worry. I want you to call your loved ones, or I want you to grab your loved ones, and I want you to pray, because if a ballistic missile hits this island, you're all dead. All right, guys.
Whoa.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Right, and you have guys like me, right, who are from the mainland. You know, we're not familiar with this type of lifestyle at all. Obviously, people are like, I came here to play football, man. Like, I'm not trying to die.
Yeah, as recruiting goes on into years after you left Hawaii, I highly encourage if you want to go play at Hawaii, do not let your parents hear this story or even think about the missile warning that happened last time, because, man, that's scary.
Yeah.
Obviously, it can happen in the continental U.S. as well.
Right,
But
yeah.
having your kids so far away and there's precedent to a ballistic missile incoming, it'd be hard to let your baby go off to school. The safe bet, is to keep them here in the continental U.S., which, again, the probability of that happening, we have way worse problems if a ballistic hits the continental U.S., right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that's the craziest thing that ever happened to you in Hawaii, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, definitely one of them. We'll get into talks more later about a few other stories, but that one right there, it made all the hairs on my neck stand up when my eyes focused waking up in the morning and seeing something like that. Man, you think you've got a plan until it smacks you right in the mouth, and you're like, oh man, like what would you do? I had Australian teammates of mine who told me, meanwhile, they got the ballistic missile alert. They went out there on the porch, lit up a cigarette, and sat there and watched the sunrise. They said, you know what, man, if I'm going to die right here with my teammates. I'm not going anywhere or whatever.
It's like the little old lady you always see right after a tornado in Oklahoma. She's on the news saying, yeah, I was right. That kind of thing. Like, yeah, they're more abrasive to it.
Right. Yeah. If it happens, Meanwhile, I'm over there panicking, throwing shit into a duffel bag and worried about,
It's over.
my life, it's done, so it definitely crazy. Different people handle different situations.
Yeah. Well, not a lot of people have experience dealing with a ballistic missile incoming text, the warning. We're going to wrap up around 11:30. We got a few minutes. We're keeping our show to about an hour and a half as we get our sea legs initially, because we have a lot of guests scheduled in the future or ideas. And then Friday, there's a couple things going on. It's Aloha Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Every Friday's Aloha Friday here for Jake, JR. I call him Jake all the time because, that's his name, but I like JR. JR fits in way better in Dallas. If you're of a certain age, you know what I'm talking about. And we have some potential acoustic performance by a music guy, and we're having our Friday food.
Right.
Hopefully one of those three things happens. Obviously, we're still in our infancy, and again, we're trying to get our bearings. Our production guys are doing great, working hard every day after we get off here to try to make tomorrow's show better. But again, when we're new, you and I have already had a little bit of an issue because we had a big guest on right away.
Right.
Now everybody after, we've got to get up to
expectations.
We had DeMarcus Ware on.
Right.
DeMarcus actually is toying with coming on as either a semi-permanent or permanent host here. Your buddy's story today was interesting and intriguing, and I'm glad you told it to me yesterday because I said get him on the show.
Right.
He's got footage fighting Jake Paul, and what I would have said is, hey, they clearly were trying to knock you out. Right. They've been watching you. They pegged you pretty good because you didn't really have your hands up in the sparring session. They changed the gloves on you. A guy you played college football with who's supposed to be a friend and not throwing him under the bus, don't know him. He kind of set your boy up.
Absolutely.
They thought that he was going to get knocked out, though, and he didn't. Credit to him. Your guy without a shirt on, he's an athlete, looks pretty athletic.
Right.
He took some hits, had the headgear, but still didn't. I wouldn't even have shown that video if I were them, because there's plenty of sparring videos where guys get knocked out.
Right.
That's the threat, unless I missed something at the end.
Right. No, I mean, you saw him just kind of throw him over the side and step over him. Obviously, that's a thumbnail for those guys. That's a little snippet that they want to use.
It's a big deal in his life, and he won't forget it.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, we're talking about it.
Exactly. That's why it's relevant, you know?
We got to carve that up and get creative how we edit it and get it together and throw it out on TikTok, because that's a pretty interesting story.
It is.
And I don't know is there a compilation of other guys that have been knocked out by him? And
there's been 2 knockouts with Nate Robinson and Nate Robinson. Oh, wait, 3 and Tyron. Well, yeah. So he got Nate Robinson. He got Ben Askren. I don't count the Ben Askren fight. That guy just wanted some coin. He hopped in there.
None of those guys should have been fighting.
Well, yeah, but I do think with Tyron Woodley, because they had to run it back, right? It wasn't so definitive enough that they were like, okay, we can run another one, make some more money. But then the second time, Tyrone goes and gets knocked out right there. And that was a huge knockout, biggest knockout for Jake Paul that everybody was like, whoa, like, well, you know, he really could be the real deal or whatever. But that is exactly what he wanted when bringing my buddy in there. Definitely a setup situation. We had talked to, D-Butt about, man, that's not good for the brand, but he's only worried about, his brand with Jake Paul. So, to each his own. I guess I
I'm not judging him. I don't know him. I mean, we're trying to do our brand too, but to do it to a collegiate teammate and let it get out there,
right,
seems a little shitty.
Right. That's exactly what everyone of us
seems a little shitty. But back to those things, and we talked about this yesterday. It's a curious decision for him to fight Silva, because Jake's going to get knocked out. The greatest striker in UFC history, we researched it yesterday, is a far cry from Tyrone Woodley or Nate Robinson.
Right, or Ben Askren. Yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't even list the other guy because you told me he shouldn't have been in there.
He's a wrestler.
Anyway. Yeah.
He's a wrestler out there throwing boxing gloves on. But
it's fun to debate and talk about, and the fight probably won't – he hasn't fought in a while because of Fury's problems and backing out. So this fight probably it won't be that far off, right?
No,
it's this year.
Yeah, no. Right now they're scheduled for October 29th. So we'll see. I don't know how
it'll get. Knowing Jake Paul's history, it'll get delayed at least until Christmas Eve or so.
Yeah, I wouldn't for sure count on something like that, because obviously, like you were saying, he's had trouble in recent trying to get this fight scheduled, and not even with him, with 2 other opponents. So very curious to see how this goes. Obviously, Dana White's frothing at the mouth because he's sitting here thinking, oh, finally, Jake Paul's gonna fight somebody that will knock him out. So very interested to see that as well. Do you want to dive into NIL, or are you wanting to wait until tomorrow to do that?
I'd say we could start off with NIL tomorrow, because as we try to stretch, guys, we talk about this all the time, and I'm talking to the viewer. Like, it takes a lot to put these live shows on for a couple of hours a day. Even though the time can and will slip away from you and go fast, you need to have, our mantra is have an interview on here, some good content. We're stretching it out a little bit. Tomorrow, Thursday, feels like a day where we may have somebody. But let's talk about it tomorrow. Give us some time to put some pre-production in and figure out what we have going on. I think we have – look at the layout here. So our graphics look good. Mm-hmm. Our studio definitely looks good, the backdrop, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the natural knee-jerk reaction is let's put a bunch of shelves, hang a bunch of stuff back here. I think in this instance with us, man, you got a jersey hanging up, which is necessary, right? Because that's your colors, repping your colors, baby.
That's me. Yeah, we got the Spokane Shock jersey up today. R.I.P., man.
Yeah. Oh, but my thing is look at our natural view is awesome.
Unreal.
Right?
Unreal.
But you can have all that aesthetic you want. It's just, are we entertaining? Are we putting good stuff out? And trust me, he and I, we stress about it, and we're working on it. So for those of you that are going along on the journey with us, stay with us. Things will get better. Guests will get better. He and I both have a pretty big contact list. Right. If DeMarcus comes on in any form of being a regular host, guest host, then the sky's the limit for us. We're looking for a professional athlete, preferably a former football player that does live here in this DFW area, who could come into the studio daily it only makes us better.
Right.
You know, my intention was to never be a co-host or host of this show. We're doing it out of necessity because we've got to get the ball rolling. The season's upon us, and we got all this cool studio and equipment. But know that we're trying to put together really good content. We're trying to bring in an NFL host who can knock down doors, and that's why we try to get DeMarcus, because his contact list goes. I mean, it runs the gamut, right, guys? He can have Peyton Manning on all the way down to the equipment manager at the Cowboys, and then somewhere in the middle, Jerry Jones. You know what I mean? So, So as we strive to get one of those guys in here, you and I'll keep plugging away and doing what we do, baby.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Stick with us, guys. We have like we're a startup company. We're working from the ground up here. Very blessed to be in this opportunity. We have all the tools here to succeed. Just stay with us along for this ride. We're going to get the ball rolling as the weeks go on, especially with all this college football and NFL going. Going to be a lot of content. We're going to be traveling, making content over at other universities, big games in the area. So just, like, subscribe, talk about, if you guys have anything that you're wanting us to talk about or discuss, feel free to comment down below. Tell us what you think, and we'll take any feedback too. We're trying to get the insight here and give you guys things that you don't hear on a typical show. We don't want to be like everybody else. We want to be the sports report.
Yeah, and the sports report is unique in that we, not at other shows don't have offensive linemen on, right? But we're talking offensive linemen talk a lot on here, and not just skill players. And it's because the nature of what we do,
right?
Because we have you in here. But yeah, man, we're excited. We got a lot of stuff going on. Sports, entertainment, music, food, a lot of that's going to be going down in this studio. And that's why I selected this place and selected you to come on. We've got Tyler and Isaac. As usual, what happens, you guys hear, we couldn't do it without the support staff and the guys that you never see. It's never been more true than here.
Absolutely.
And I bark a lot, so they cuss me under their breath and when I'm not in the room, but when the lights are on, it's go time. Tyler and Isaac are all over their shit, so we couldn't do it without them. So I'll get you guys something nice for lunch, I don't know.
We had Terry Black's yesterday, man.
I took them to Terry Black's.
I'm telling you right now, that is some of the best barbecue I've ever had. That mac and cheese too that they got over there, undefeated. Okay, if you're ever in a Deep Ellum area, go and check them out. They're not sponsored. We'd love to have them at some point in time, but we also have this idea of us going around and trying these best ranking some barbecue places around here. I'm a big food guy, if you can't tell already. So that's going to be a lot of fun for us too. But yeah, you took us out and we had an amazing lunch yesterday.
I think that's one of the better things about working here, right? For you guys, is that you get
absolutely.
I take you to Terry Black's a lot, and to what he spoke on. Huge fan of Texas Monthly, the magazine. Every year, especially if you live here, that they put out their the best barbecue places in Texas. It's the ranking system. One of my faves that I've been to a lot is all the way out in Tyler. I don't know where they were on the list this year. Stanley's Barbecue, amazing place. Well, we're probably going to peel back and get down to the top 10. And for those that are here in this area, we're going to start hitting them up pretty soon. Not a big food review necessarily, but mainly just showing up and getting in line. Because if Texas Monthly says the place is the nuts,
right?
They know barbecue. We just want to go soak it up and a great chance to shoot content. But that's going to end it for the day. Ironically, I noticed we had a couple more people join on. Better late than never. This episode's archived. The link will be put in our bio on TikTok. I refresh it every day. It's kind of like my contribution. But big things coming up. You're definitely going to want to tune in Friday. We're going to have, I hope, I'm waiting on confirmation, an acoustic musical guest, some local food going to get brought in and showcased. And we'll see if we can get DeMarcus to jump on.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, sounds great. Seriously, tune in again tomorrow, and let's get after it again.
Let's get after it. All right. Bye, guys.